Starship is ready to fly. Musk and SpaceX have just dropped a new hint about the upcoming Flight 5. But it's still waiting for a word from the FAA to fly. So what's the holdup? Even more than that, the FAA is also making significant moves regarding SpaceX's development, exposing massive changes coming to Starbase in the future. Find out everything in today's episode. About 3 weeks. That's what Musk has just revealed on X regarding the launch time for Flight 5. This puts us on track to see Starship soar in late August, around the 30th or early September, perfectly lining up with what Musk mentioned in a previous online interview. Why does it need 3 weeks? Well, it's certainly not because Starship isn't ready. SpaceX has announced its readiness for the 5th test flight of the Starship rocket system, the most powerful rocket ever built in aerospace history. The announcement was made on Thursday via X. Flight 5 Starship and Super Heavy are ready to fly, pending regulatory approval. Additional booster catch testing and Flight 6 vehicle testing is planned while waiting for clearance to fly. While awaiting approval from regulatory agencies, SpaceX continues to refine its unique catching process with a Super Heavy booster, a colossal structure standing 71 meters tall. This process is designed to safely return the booster back to the launch tower right after it completes its mission of sending the Starship spacecraft into orbit. Indeed, booster B14.1 recently returned to the launch site for another round of slap testing, focusing on the modified chopsticks. Even though SpaceX has put B14.1 through countless tests in preparation for Flight 5, they remain laser-focused on fine-tuning the force and inertia of these catch arms as they approach and capture the booster. When the booster comes back down, it's like an empty tin can, while those catch arms can weigh up to 80 tons. If the arms apply too much force, the impact could easily warp or dent the booster. SpaceX needs to ensure that these catch arms can grab the booster with precision and safety without causing any damage. This requires meticulous calculations, careful simulations, and relentless real-world testing to perfect the system. Once perfected, this system will allow SpaceX to quickly refurbish and prepare the booster for subsequent flights. Both stages of Starship appear to be ready to conquer the skies. However, because this return to launch site (RTLS) approach is a significant departure from the 4th flight, SpaceX needs to update its launch license with the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA). The FAA will conduct a thorough investigation into potential environmental and public safety concerns before granting approval for this new flight. In the 4th test flight, the Super Heavy booster was programmed to splash down miles offshore, far from populated areas. This minimized the impact of sonic booms on people. However, with the new plan to bring the booster back to land directly at the launch tower, the noise will be considerably louder, potentially affecting the surrounding environment and local communities. SpaceX has previously addressed this issue, stating, "In addition to creating a spectacular show for Cameron County residents, the rocket's return will come with a sonic boom. The sonic boom, an unavoidable aspect of advanced aerospace technology, occurs when an object breaks the sound barrier, approximately 343 ms or 1,235 km/h. As the Super Heavy rocket travels faster than this speed, it generates a powerful shockwave. The sound waves from the rocket cannot spread out ahead, but are compressed together, forming a pressure wavefront. When this wavefront reaches the listener's ear, it releases accumulated energy, creating a thunderous boom, much like a clap of thunder. Sonic booms are not new in the aerospace world. They've been well documented and studied extensively in the operations of fighter jets, space shuttles, and other spacecraft. This phenomenon is also commonly observed along Florida's Space Coast, where rocket launches are a frequent occurrence. However, with the unprecedented size and power of Super Heavy, this phenomenon takes on an entirely new scale. SpaceX predicts that the sonic booms from Super Heavy will be heard 7 to 9 minutes after launch. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, is carefully reviewing this as part of the approval process for Starship's 5th test flight. Yet there are many reasons to believe that the approval will be swift. One key factor is the dispersal pattern of the sonic boom. Those directly beneath the rocket's flight path will experience the most intense sound, while those in surrounding areas will hear the boom with significantly diminished intensity. This has important implications for assessing environmental impact and community safety. For Flight 5, SpaceX anticipates that the strongest effects will be confined to the area immediately surrounding the Starbase launch pad. Scientific research has shown that in most cases, the overpressure generated by sonic booms, typically ranging from 1 to 2 pounds per square foot, is too weak weak to cause physical injury to humans. This has been demonstrated over decades of supersonic aircraft and space shuttle operations. In the case of Super Heavy, the pressure is expected to reach between 2 to 5 pounds per square foot. Although this is higher than typical supersonic vehicles, it still falls within the safety margins for both humans and structures. To put this into perspective, most standard buildings are designed to withstand pressures of up to 11 pounds per square foot without significant damage. This means that the infrastructure around SpaceX's launch site is not at significant structural risk. On the physiological side, the human eardrum, one of the most sensitive parts to sound pressure, remains safe under these conditions. Studies have shown that for a sonic boom to cause eardrum damage, it would need to be nearly 600 times stronger than the overpressure generated by a typical space shuttle landing. This places the sonic boom from Super Heavy well within a broad safety range. The main impact is the sudden and potentially startling noise, especially for those who are sensitive to sound or unfamiliar with the phenomenon. The process of obtaining a launch license from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, is complex and thorough, taking into account more than just sound impacts. A crucial part of this process involves evaluating worst-case scenarios, including the possibility of Flight 5 ending in an explosion. The FAA must carefully assess all potential consequences, from environmental impacts to public safety, in the event of a serious mishap. Launching and landing the world's most powerful rocket, like Super Heavy, is no simple task. It requires strict adherence to a myriad of complex regulations, rules, and laws. However, instead of viewing this delay as a setback, SpaceX is treating it as a valuable opportunity. This waiting period allows the company to conduct additional tests, practice, and refine procedures for the coming launch and even Flight 6. This could include fine-tuning control systems, enhancing safety protocols, and even developing new technologies to minimize environmental impact. In the past, the FAA has been criticized by some as a roadblock to Starship's launch schedule. However, it's important to remember that the FAA's role is to ensure public safety and environmental compliance, not to expedite space projects. If Flight 5 does indeed end in an explosion, the repercussions for subsequent flights could be severe. Flight 6 and those that follow might face much longer review and approval processes, as the FAA and other regulatory bodies would need to reassess the entire procedure and safety measures. Safety will drive the timeline, the FAA said in a statement on Tuesday, August 6th. But what SpaceX is working on with the FAA goes beyond just Flight 5. The FAA has initiated a new environmental impact assessment for Starship at Starbase. Let me explain a bit. In June 2022, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, completed the final Programmatic Environmental Assessment, PEA. This assessment allowed SpaceX to conduct up to 5 Starship launches per year from the Starbase facility in South Texas. However, given SpaceX's forward-looking ambitions, this limit quickly became too restrictive. Currently, alternative launch sites like Launch Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center or Launch Pad 50 in Florida are still under development and are not expected to be operational for at least the next 2 years. This poses a significant challenge for SpaceX in meeting the aggressive launch schedule they've set. Increasing the launch cadence at Starbase is the most viable option. In light of this, SpaceX has submitted a request to the FAA to increase the number of permitted flights from Starbase to up to 25 per year, a substantial increase from the current limit of 5. Additionally, they propose the possibility of landing both the Starship upper stage and the Super Heavy booster back at the launch site, a critical step toward developing a fully reusable rocket system. In response, federal agencies have released a 143-page draft environmental assessment that shows some fascinating insights into SpaceX's plans to expand and enhance its infrastructure at Starbase. These details not only highlight the company's ambitions to increase its launch capabilities, but also reflect careful consideration of environmental and logistical challenges. First and foremost, the construction of a second launch tower, significantly larger than the first, marks a major leap forward. Every support system, from the launch mount to the water farm, is being designed on a much grander scale. This points to SpaceX gearing up for the future launches of Starship V3 variants, which could stand as tall as 150 meters when fully stacked. One particularly interesting detail is the deluge system being built for the second launch tower. With a higher water capacity, it's designed to provide water for cooling the launch mount deck after vehicle liftoff and suppress sound. This suggests an additional function of mitigating the negative effects of sound, a feature that the current deluge system at SpaceX lacks. On the infrastructure side, SpaceX is expanding the existing tank farm by adding more storage tanks. Notably, this expanded tank farm will serve both launch pads, instead of each pad having its own dedicated automated tank farm, as initially proposed in 2019. This demonstrates an optimization in space and resource usage, reflecting SpaceX's flexibility in adapting its plans based on real-world experience. However, expanding the infrastructure also introduces new logistical challenges. It's estimated that an additional 24,000 truck trips per year will be needed to supply water and fuel for the expanded systems. This marks a significant increase in road traffic, potentially putting a major strain on State Highway 4, the main route to Starbase. The surge in traffic not only raises concerns about road safety, but could also impact local air quality and noise levels. But here's the game changer. A promising solution has emerged in the newly proposed site plans, an air separation unit, ASU. This equipment, capable of splitting ordinary air into its primary gas components, could enable SpaceX to produce liquid oxygen and nitrogen on site, eliminating the need for long-haul deliveries. The implementation of an ASU brings several notable advantages. The first one is reduced wait times for fuel supply, enhancing the flexibility of the launch schedule. Next, it could significantly decrease truck trips required to transport liquid oxygen and nitrogen to Starbase, and importantly, this will lead to substantial cost savings for SpaceX over the long term, as they'll no longer rely on purchasing and shipping these gases from distant locations. Interestingly, the idea of an ASU was floated by SpaceX back in 2019, but it seems they're only now taking serious steps toward making it a reality. This shift underscores SpaceX's increasing focus on optimizing operations and minimizing their environmental footprint. Notably, the new environmental document concluded, the FAA has concluded that the modification of SpaceX's existing vehicle operator license for Starship Super Heavy operations conforms to the prior environmental documentation, consistent with the data contained in the 2022 PEA, that there are no significant environmental changes, and all pertinent conditions and requirements of the prior approval have been met or will be met in the current action. In simple terms, the FAA's assessment is relatively positive. They've concluded that SpaceX has complied with all necessary regulations and requirements, and the FAA seems to find no reason to halt the Starship Super Heavy operations. However, the FAA's conclusion isn't the final word. They will be considering public feedback before making their final decision. If everything goes smoothly, we could soon witness Starship launching regularly from Texas once the construction and development activities at Starbase are completed. All right. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth looks at the latest advancements in space technology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.